I want us to have a look at a strong message coming from the Gen Zs. But before we do that, let me say this. If you look at the opposition as Azimio, it's basically ODM party. So if ODM party embraces the government, then that means the opposition is dead because Kalonzo Musyoka and his team are too weak to keep the government in check. And listening to Kalonzo Musyoka speaking yesterday, there is also a likelihood that Kalonzo Musyoka and his Wiper party might soon be panel beaten into supporting William Ruto's government. And that only means that Kenyans will be on their own. It will now force Kenyans themselves to fight for their rights because the opposition is now in bed with the government. I want us to have a look at a very strong message coming from Gen Zs, a message that is going to inform the basis of our analysis right now. Time has come, Tuesday, 27th August. Gen all for one and one for all. Dissolve parliament. Let's take all of them home now. Print out and sign petitions to dissolve the corrupt parliament. Dissolve parliament. Occupy Supreme Court. Rage and courage. That's the latest message coming from the Gen Zs. And they are warning that come Tuesday, 27th August, Parliament should be dissolved, and they are also going to occupy the Supreme Court of Kenya. And I've seen Babu Owino's team speaking today. They are supporting this coming mass action. I want us to dig deep into all this for Kenyans to see what's happening here. If you are watching us but you have not yet subscribed, subscribe, give the video a like. Let's proceed. We know that the only person who can dissolve parliament is the president with the advice of the Chief Justice. So Gen Zs are just calling upon William Ruto to dissolve parliament because sometimes back we saw Maraga advising the then President Uhuru Kenyatta to dissolve parliament. So from where I sit, that advice is still valid because Kenyan parliament has not yet actualized the two-third gender rule. So that advice by former Chief Justice Maraga, I still consider it valid. And William Ruto can use that advice to dissolve parliament. But I don't want us to dwell more on that. I want us to understand what's happening here. Gen Zs are saying dissolve parliament, occupy Supreme Court. In this forum, I've always maintained that besides Gen Zs calling for William Ruto to go, they should also greet the Supreme Court judges, the 7 justices being led by Martha Koome. And I've always explained here that if you look at our judiciary, the Supreme Court is coming out as the weakest link. The lower courts appear to be more independent than the apex courts, especially on political issues. The Supreme Court is the weakest link, and I've always maintained that Gen Zs should occupy that court. It's good Gen Zs have now seen the wisdom in that, and they are now calling upon Kenyans and most of the Gen Zs to occupy the Supreme Court. There are some institutions that has and must be occupied. The first institution is the Supreme Court, Anti-Corruption Commission, Director of Public Prosecution, and also NIS. Besides that, IEBC Secretariat should also be occupied. Those institutions have clearly let Kenyans down. And we are where we are because of IEBC in conjunction with Martha Kome's bench. That's brought us here. And during the Gen Z protests, we've also seen DCI, the police, NIS, anti-corruption also going rogue. So all these institutions, in my honest opinion, should be occupied. It's high time they start working independently without listening or being directed from State House, Nairobi. So Gen Z should also occupy those institutions. Besides that, we know of some members of parliament who voted yes for the finance bill. We know them. Gen Z should continue greeting those members of parliament. I don't know why Gen Zs have gone slow on greeting them. They should continue greeting those members of parliament. Let the ground be very hostile to them to a point. They'll not be controlled from State House Nairobi, but they'll actually be controlled by the people they represent. And that can only happen if Gen Zs continue greeting them. So I'm calling upon Gen Zs to go on greeting those members of parliament who voted yes. And now for this planned protest come 27th August, it shows clearly that Gen Zs are not relenting. They are still looking at the bigger picture. They are still focused. And this constant pressure is very much needed for William Ruto to deliver. Because in the past weeks, we have seen William Ruto starting to relax. We saw him flying to Rwanda, an indication that he thinks or he assumes things are back to normal. And we have been seeing William Ruto on car rooftops campaigning for the next election. One thing William Ruto should and must know, Kenyans don't want to see him on car rooftops campaigning for the next election. Kenyans want to see William Ruto sitting down in his office working, not on car rooftops giving empty promises. So if William Ruto is listening, he should not assume that it's back to business as usual. Kenyans are still just giving him that time to see if he can do things the right way. And already when William Ruto brought the opposition in his government, actually he tried curing one aspect that took Kenyans to the streets. Kenyans wanted to see a government with the face of Kenya, not a two-tribe kind of a government. And by William Ruto bringing the opposition in his government, in one way or the other, he softened the hearts of some Kenyans. But that's not enough. Kenyans want to see the principal secretaries being sent home, the corrupt top government officials being sent home. Kenyans don't want to see William Ruto micromanaging the ministries from State House, Nairobi. William Ruto should now allow the cabinet secretaries do their work without interference from State House, Nairobi. It's only at that time that we will now know which cabinet secretary is not performing. I think William Ruto should now allow these cabinet secretaries work without any interference. If he does that, the work will even be easier in that Kenyans for themselves will pinpoint which cabinet secretary is working and which one is not working. And this constant pressure is good, for it will make William Ruto and his government to deliver. Let me stop it there, ladies and gentlemen. If you are watching us but you have not yet subscribed, subscribe, give the video a like. Any person watching us outside Kenya, For the first time, drop a comment, let us know from which part of the globe you are watching us from. If possible, subscribe, give the video a like. And even before I go, the team ground comprising Babu Wino, Wamuchomba, and those other leaders, I strongly believe they won't be able to deliver because of some political interests. Wamuchomba is clearly angling to work with the Rigathi Gachagua. Babu Owino, on his part, is very desperate to please the Azimio strongholds. So that team ground, in my honest opinion, will not be able to achieve anything. It's composed of members with divergent interests. Let's meet in our next analysis. Thank you.